The year is 43 AD, and the shores of Britain tremble under the weight of an unprecedented event. Roman legions, clad in iron and discipline, step onto this misty island, their standards gleaming under a foreign sun. For centuries, we've pictured this moment as a brutal conquest, an empire crushing a scattered, primitive people. But what if that image is a distortion, a tale woven more from imagination than evidence? History often paints Britain as a land of helpless tribes, overwhelmed by the might of Rome. Yet beneath the surface, a different story emerges, one of negotiation, alliances, and a culture far more resilient than we've been led to believe. The traditional narrative begins with Emperor Claudius, a ruler eager to prove his worth. He sends 4 legions, some 20,000 men, across the Channel, their ships slicing through the waves toward a supposedly hostile shore. We've long assumed they landed at Richborough in Kent, a site marked by Roman ruins and a convenient story. But archaeology whispers a challenge. Where's the proof of a grand, violent clash? Instead, the evidence points elsewhere, to ChichesterHarbour, a quiet inlet nestled in the territory of a tribe called the Atrebates. Here, the Romans might not have stormed ashore, but stepped onto land as invited guests. The Atrebates were led by a king named Verica, a figure shrouded in mystery but pivotal to this tale. Roman historian Cassius Dio tells us Verica sought Claudius's help, pleading for aid against rival tribes pressing down from the north. This wasn't a conquest then, but a partnership, a British king opening his doors to a powerful ally. The idea flips our assumptions. Rome didn't always impose itself. Sometimes it was beckoned in. Consider FishbournePalace, a sprawling complex unearthed near Chichester, larger than Buckingham Palace itself. Its mosaics shimmer with Roman elegance, its columns carved from Italian stone, a marvel built just decades after 43 AD. Archaeologists once thought this was the home of a Roman governor, a symbol of imperial dominance. But a gold signet ring found amid the ruins bears the name Tiberius Claudius Catuarus, a Briton, not a Roman. This suggests Fishbourne wasn't a foreign outpost, but the residence of a wealthy Romanized native. Perhaps it belonged to Verica's kin, a ruler rewarded for loyalty with a palace that screamed prestige. Before the legions ever arrived, Britain wasn't a blank slate waiting for Rome's imprint. Tribes like the Atrebates traded with the empire, their graves yielding Roman wine jars and coins stamped with Augustus's face. Burials from this era, like one near Colchester dated to 10 BC, reveal the elite already enchanted by Roman culture. A British king buried with a medallion of the emperor hints at ties stretching back generations. Rome didn't need to crush these people. Many were already part of its orbit. The invasion of 43 AD might have been less a war and more a formalization of an existing relationship. Think of Emperor Caligula's bizarre attempt to invade Britain a decade earlier, in 37 AD. He marched an army to the Channel, only to order them to hurl rocks into the sea, a victory over Neptune, he claimed. This fiasco likely weakened Rome's image, giving British tribes leverage to negotiate rather than resist. When Claudius succeeded Caligula, he inherited a chance to turn mockery into triumph, perhaps with Verica's blessing. The Atrebates weren't alone in this dance with Rome. Other tribes too bore coins mimicking Roman designs. These weren't the crude etchings of a conquered people, but symbols of power, blending local pride with imperial flair. So, where does this leave the battle-hardened legions of our textbooks? Cassius Dio writes of a crossing cheered by a flash of light in the sky, a good omen, but mentions no fierce resistance upon landing. Archaeology backs this up. No mass graves or burned villages mark the supposed invasion sites. At Chichester, pre-invasion ceramics suggest a Roman presence even before 43 AD, a base, not a battlefield. Contrast this with Cadbury Castle, a hill fort in Somerset where a bloody clash did occur. Roman troops stormed its ramparts, slaughtering defenders and torching the gates. A grim exception, not the rule. Even here the story shifts. Excavations uncovered foundations rebuilt soon after, hinting at a British culture that endured. The Romans didn't erase these people, they adapted to them. This wasn't a one-sided takeover, but a complex exchange, a meeting of worlds that shaped Britain in ways we're only now unraveling. The idea of a simple conquest crumbles under the weight of the evidence. Take Bath, another Roman jewel built atop a sacred spring revered by Britons for millennia. Its steaming waters, rich with iron oxide, drew worshippers long before Rome's engineers arrived. Within 30 years of the invasion, a grand temple rose here, dedicated to Sulis Minerva, a fusion of a British goddess and a Roman one. The Romans didn't bulldoze this holy site. They honored it, weaving their beliefs with the local. The temple's carvings, Luna riding the night sky, Sol crowned with sun rays, echo Iron Age cosmology, not just Roman myth. This blending suggests a respect for Britain's past, not its obliteration. Objects tossed into the spring as offerings mirror older traditions, like those in the Witham Valley, where swords sank into watery depths. Rome didn't stamp out these rites, it dressed them in new clothes. Back at Fishbourne, the palace's gardens rival those of Pompeii, laid out with precision by hands that knew Roman tastes. Yet its owner, likely a Briton, lived as both a tribal leader and a citizen of the empire. This duality challenges the black and white tale of victor and vanquished. Britain's elite didn't vanish, they evolved, embracing Rome's tools to amplify their own power. Claudius's legions brought roads, towns, and a new order, but they didn't rewrite Britain's soul. The tribes had agency, striking deals that preserved their influence under a Roman veneer. Imagine Verica, standing at ChichesterHarbour, watching Roman ships glide in, not as conquerors but as partners in a calculated gamble. His invitation might have sparked a transformation, not a subjugation. By the late 1st century, villas dotted the landscape, their mosaics telling stories of a hybrid culture. These weren't Roman imports, but local creations, funded by Britons who thrived in this new world. The invasion, then, wasn't a thunderclap of destruction, but a slow burn of change, a shift driven as much by British ambition as Roman might. Our history books need a rewrite. This rethinking doesn't diminish Rome's impact. It enriches it, revealing a Britain that wasn't a passive victim, but an active player. The legions came, yes, but they didn't come alone. They came with consent. What happened in 43 AD wasn't the end of British identity, but its reinvention. The tribes didn't just survive Rome, they shaped it, setting the stage for a nation that defies simple labels. So, fact or fiction? The Roman invasion was real, but the story we've told is half-truth at best. It's time to dig deeper, past the myths, into the soil where the truth lies buried. Britain wasn't conquered in a day, nor was it ever fully conquered at all. It bent, it blended, and it emerged stronger. A legacy we're still piecing together, one artifact at a time.